hand for Tom MacGyver. Okay, our features, as I said earlier, are two poets all the way from Long Beach, California. And now we're losing half the audience. Where are the fuck are you guys going?
We got kicked out.
You got kicked out?
Don't have his ID.
Oh,
It's 9 o'clock.
damn. We just turned into a bar. Okay. Okay, we have other people sitting down.
You can stay out here. Waitress come.
Okay. Yeah, darn the New Mexico state laws. It's okay.
Hey, did you ever meet Veronica?
Veronica.
That's our waitress.
Hi, Veronica.
Hey, Veronica.
She's our waitress.
Hey, Veronica.
Yeah. I treat Veronica very well. Okay, so anyway, our two poets are all the way from Long Beach, California. The first poet, and I believe they have this kind of weird dysfunctional story about the healthcare system. Is that kind of the tour? They both have nightmares of our healthcare system and wrote about it, but I'm not really sure if that's what they're going to read about, but that's what they talked about. So anyway, as I said, our first poet, he's the publisher of Lummox Press, which published Todd Moore and a whole bunch of wonderful, wonderful books. Please welcome all the way from right over there, R.D. Raindog Armstrong. Keep clapping, he's not all the way up here. Goddammit.
It's really nice to be here at the North Pole. This is my new book, which is the book that Don was talking about, and I was going to read a bunch of stories about being poor and old, and I decided that most of you won't be able to relate to that. So I'm opting to go with a more age-appropriate series of readings, and so I'm reading from my first book, as well as the old book, the new book, and hopefully you'll be inspired and either want to slit your wrists or come by the table and buy a book from me.
Suicide or buy?
Yeah. Either way, I'm sure it'll be of service to poetry.
That one cuts deep.
You're young, you should be able to get by that. All right. Yeah, that's right. Bitter old man. You know, when Murray and I decided to do this tour, we were trying to come up with a name for our tour, because every good tour has a name. And I suggested we should call it the Lollipops and Dog Shit Tour. B being dog shit and Murray being lollipops.
You don't want a shirt.
Okay, when I get back to Long Beach, I'll whip one up for you.
Awesome.
All right, we're going to start out with a San Pedro poem called Pueblo de las Putas. And for those of you who do not speak Spanish, ask someone who does. She stumbled down the sidewalk, fighting with a large white sports bag, or she wore a tight-knit black dress that seemed determined to ride up to an interesting height. It was late, nearly 1 a.m., and I was heading south on Pacific back to the point, back home. I would have liked to have stayed and seen who got the best of her first, but the two gentlemen in the green '67 Chevy behind me had a different idea. Later, back home, I remembered when I first came to this town, I thought, this was an awfully friendly town. The women on Pacific were always smiling downtown, smiling and waving at me. And then I began seeing them regularly at the same street corners or hanging around the same telephone late at night, and I became suspicious. I was embarrassed by my lack of sophistication and repulsed by these putas who had tricked me. But then one night at a stoplight, I happened to make eye contact with one of these ladies, and in a blink of an eye, all the desperation, fear, and anger of all the long nights, strung out and lonely, the stinky sex on a dirty rag, helplessly trapped, hellish days, it was all there. I saw the comedic twist amidst the ruins of her life, waiting for a phone call to make her one fuck closer to that final fix. And across town, and several months later, a woman drunk on sex or whatever stumbles home, her skirt heading north faster than she can. By the way, the book is Fire and Rain Volume 1, and it is over at that table, and it is for sale. And that's the way we're making money on this trip, because we can't afford to do blowjobs, because we're too old, we can't get down on our knees. So please, help us out. Help us out by visiting the table.
Knee pads.
I left them in Long Beach.
No.
I didn't know.
Tables.
Okay, this is called Mozart at 22. This is for all you young, disaffected youth out there. My life sucks, man. He was 22. His hair was cut like the Dutch boy and dyed jet black. His overcoat covered ragged jeans and jack boots. Leaning against the lamppost, bumming cigarettes from passers-by, a group of young men milled around him, muttering their agreement with his wisdom and profound insight. He was 22, and life was passing him by. He looked dejectedly at me. Why can't I be like you, man? 22, and he wanted to double his grief. In parts of Eastern Europe, old men of 22 were manning the barricades. Right now, even as we stood on the corner in the midday sun. Mozart at 22 had already lived 2/3 of his life. Rimbaud at 22 had given up poetry, shot by his ex-lover and taken up gun running. My whole life is totally fucked up, man. He lived in a small, neat studio apartment just down the street. When I was 22, I lived in a roach-infested hole of an apartment in East Oakland. My girlfriend was two-timing me with a baseball player and booking herself on an all-expenses-paid trip around the bend. The Blue Meanies were gassing kids on Telegraph Avenue, while Nixon and company were looting Vietnam, raping our faith in authority, and pillaging the federal government. Now this kid, this angst-ridden 22-year-old lost soul wants to be like me, living the easy life. 1/10 of my entire life equals his adult life. His life is a little fart compared to the brown, crusty, foot-long floater of a turd that is mine. 22 years old, and it was all over except for the screaming and crying. Rest easy, kid. It's always darkest right before it goes completely black.
All right.
I want to thank all you disaffected youth for not running out of the room, because normally that poem scares everybody. Here's a poem for anybody that has a job. I'm not one of them. The pretty white teeth drip death. 1:01 a.m., pulling in from a long shift, the winding down process. Will I sleep tonight, or will I spend yet another night jumping into and falling out of the arms of Morpheus? My job is taking big chunks of flesh out of me. My job is a happy shark, ripping pound after pound from my bones. Why doesn't the shark just swallow me whole as a delicate snack? Instead, the shark is inspired to play an impromptu game of water polo with my bloodied yet still living corpse. Why must the shark play with me? What am I, anyway, merely a toy? I try to be strong, but right now I couldn't fend off a mosquito attack. I am weary of this shark who playfully harasses me, taking little love bites out of the fleshier parts. When I'm done with this job and doctor time has healed my wounds, I'm going to look like a patchwork quilt or a map of all the railroads in America. Gainful employment, it sounds good when you're young and ignorant, but watching that shark swimming away with a pound of your flesh in its big mouth, grinning like Hitler riding through the Arc de Triomphe, grinning from savage, beastly hunger, grinning at the joke because it knows it's gotten more out of you than the lousy $8 an hour that it compensates you for your lost time. Watching the shark swim away with your pound in its mouth, your blood drilling out like little red ribbons trailing along behind like some pink Easter bonnet, some dangerously wrong, you know that slavery has been renamed. You know that you can do nothing about the shark. It's gone. You've already been tricked. You've already been had. There's nothing to do for you but go home and beat something, the dog, the kids, the spouse, your meat, what's left of it. So go home and crack something open, maybe a six-pack, and flip on the tube. Watch the flesh test. Watch the other dumb SOBs trying to fend off the sharks and laugh at yourself. Laugh idiotically at this moronic nightmare of a bed we've made. Kneel down and pray to Al Bundy and Homer Simpson and laugh yourself to sleep. The Old Dog for Charles Bukowski.
Yeah. And horse racing.
And horse, well, it's not really horse unless you're an old dog trying to race a, yeah, that'd be dog racing, my friend. How many beers are you drinking?